In 1934, the USDA published a 47-page food preservation bulletin that quietly disappeared from public libraries within 2 decades. Not because the information was wrong, because it was too useful. Every method inside it required 0 ongoing purchases, 0 electricity, and 0 dependence on the companies that were just beginning to sell America on refrigerators. I found a copy at an estate sale last spring, tucked inside a wooden crate belonging to an Amish family named the Bontragers. The pages were worn, but the methods were intact. And what's inside will make you question every grocery bill you've paid this year. The modern food storage industry, refrigerators, freezers, vacuum sealers, is worth over $800 billion globally. But the Amish communities of Lancaster and Holmes County have been feeding large families through brutal winters for generations, spending almost nothing to do it. Today I'm going to show you exactly how. The average American spends roughly $1,200 a year just keeping a refrigerator running, and that's before factoring in food spoilage from power outages or mechanical failure. A family like the Yoders of Sugar Creek, Ohio, whom I visited 2 summers ago, feeds 9 people through winter on preserved food that costs them under $30 in total supplies. No electricity, no appliances, just methods that predate the industry that replace them. Here's the part nobody talks about. Every single technique I'm about to show you shares one critical characteristic. None of them can be patented. You can't trademark boiling water. You can't license wood ash. There's no subscription fee for salt. Around the 1940s, as appliance manufacturers gained lobbying power, home economics curricula in American schools quietly shifted away from preservation skills toward appliance use. These methods didn't disappear because they stopped working. They disappeared because nobody could profit from them continuing. Walk into the Bontrager kitchen in late August, and every surface is covered with jars. Ruth Bontrager, who has been canning since she was 8 years old, fills each one with tomatoes, peaches, or pickled vegetables, then lowers them into rolling boiling water with the calm focus of a surgeon. The heat destroys bacteria and mold spores. Once that seal forms, those jars are stable for up to 5 years. No electricity, no freezer burn. Ruth told me once, "A full pantry shelf sleeps better at night than any refrigerator." She's not wrong. The key most beginners miss is the difference between a hot pack and a raw pack, whether you pre-cook the food before jarring or pack it raw. Get that wrong, and your seal fails. Get it right, and you've got summer tomatoes waiting for you in February. This one stopped me cold when I first saw it. Clean, dry wood ash, specifically from untreated hardwood, is alkaline enough to create an environment where bacteria simply cannot survive. The Bontragers pack eggs and root vegetables like carrots and beets into containers layered with ash. Each egg tucked in like it's being archived. Months later, those eggs crack open perfectly fresh. The science is straightforward. Alkalinity neutralizes the acidic environment bacteria need to multiply. Ancient Romans documented this method around 200 BC. It costs nothing if you have a wood fire. The only rule, and this matters, is that the ash must come from clean, untreated wood. Scented or chemically treated wood ruins everything. In 1887, a French preservation manual described this process as the most reliable method known to rural households. The Amish never stopped using it. Cooked meat, bacon, sausage, pork roast, is submerged in rendered lard or tallow while still warm. As the fat solidifies, it forms a completely airtight seal. No oxygen means no bacterial growth. Simple physics. The French call it confit. Michelin-starred restaurants charge $40 a plate for it. The Amish do it in a mason jar for under $2 of lard. Eli Schwartz, a farmer I spoke with near Millersburg, pulled out a jar of pork he'd sealed 8 months prior. The meat inside was tender, moist, and rich with flavor. His only comment, "It gets better waiting." Archaeological evidence from 7000 BC shows humans were fermenting food before they built permanent settlements. The Amish never needed archaeology to tell them that. They've simply never stopped. Cabbage becomes sauerkraut. Cucumbers become pickles. Beets transform into something that outlasts almost everything else in the pantry. The process is biological. Beneficial bacteria consume sugars, produce lactic acid, and in doing so create an environment where harmful bacteria cannot survive. No heat required. No equipment beyond a jar and salt. A properly fermented jar can remain shelf-stable for 2 to 3 years, with flavor that deepens over time. The only mistake beginners make is impatience, opening jars too early before the fermentation cycle completes. Label everything. I once handed a neighbor what I thought was sauerkraut. It was pickled beets. She's still talking about it. Some dried foods, stored correctly in airtight containers away from light, last up to 20 years. That's not folklore. That's documented by the USDA itself in that same 1934 bulletin I mentioned at the start. The Bontragers have shelves of dried apples, pears, and venison strips that they rotate through each season. Jacob Bontrager explained it simply. Moisture is the enemy. Remove it, and the food decides its own expiration date. Wood-fired drying racks do what $300 electric dehydrators replicate, and they've been doing it since before electricity existed. The same principle later informed NASA's meal planning for space missions. When your food preservation method is good enough for astronauts, it's good enough for winter. Underground storage maintains a near constant temperature of 32 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, without a single watt of electricity. The Bontrager root cellar holds potatoes, apples, carrots, turnips, and squash through the entire Ohio winter. The humidity underground prevents vegetables from drying out, while the cool temperature slows any biological activity that would cause spoilage. Here's what surprised me most. Apples stored in a root cellar for 2 to 3 months taste better than freshly picked ones. The starches slowly convert to sugars, and the flavor mellows. Ruth calls them patient apples. The method is over 2,000 years old. It costs nothing to maintain, and it outperforms a refrigerator crisper drawer on every metric. Roman legions were partially paid in salt, salarium, the origin of the word salary, because salt was understood to be that valuable. The Amish still treat it that way. Meats packed in coarse salt inside wooden barrels lose their moisture rapidly, leaving bacteria with no environment to grow in. Some salt-cured fish prepared this way has been documented lasting 25 years or more. Vinegar works on a different mechanism, acidity rather than dehydration, but achieves the same result. An unopened vinegar pickle jar is shelf-stable for 5 or more years. Cucumbers, eggs, beets, onions, anything submerged in a proper brine becomes bacteriologically untouchable. The ratio matters. Too little acid and the method fails. Get it right, and you have food that outlasts the bread it was supposed to sit beside. Smoke contains phenols and aldehydes, chemical compounds that actively inhibit bacterial growth on the surface of meat while simultaneously drying it from the outside in. The Amish smokehouse is not a luxury, it's a laboratory. Hams, sausages, fish, and hard cheeses all move through it. Done correctly, smoked meats remain shelf-stable for up to 2 years without refrigeration. Amos Schwartz, whose family has run a smokehouse in Wayne County since 1923, told me his great-grandfather's method hasn't changed in 4 generations. When something works that well, he said, you don't fix it. Every single method here shares the same quality. None of them require your money after the first use. No recurring costs, no replacement parts, no power bill. The industry that replaced these methods needed you to forget them. Moses Kauffman's Secrets exists to make sure you don't. Now, I want to hear from you. Does your family still use any of these methods? Or did you find something similar passed down that most people have never heard of? Drop it in the comments. Some of the best discoveries on this channel have come from your stories, and I read every single one.